All right, perfect. Welcome, everybody. Today is August 18th, 2025. This is the Bookmap DARMA Capital stream. So each week we kind of hop on here and we talk about markets, market outlooks. We talk about macro. We take a top-down approach to markets and really just kind of lay out the full landscape, right? And then we get a little bit into more of the nitty-gritty, into the micro structure of the market, some of the more weekly time frames, and then some strategy and application. So my name, for those that don't know, is Spencer Riegle. I am the Chief Crypto Options Trader and Strategist. You can find me at _RIEGLE, or you can find us at DARMA Cap Trading on X. And then I am also fairly active on LinkedIn, right? So just my full name, Spencer Riegle. You can reach out there. Or you can also find me here in the Bookmap Discord. So those are all great places to find us, as well as our website, which we'll go over here shortly. Disclosures, first and foremost, all information and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Right, and so each week we always start with risk capital, right? And the idea of risk capital. So what is risk capital? Risk capital to us is capital in which you're willing to lose, right? And so if you are making a trade and that capital needs to be used for bills at the end of the month, groceries at the end of the week, or even just a better quality of life, maybe that's going out for dinner on a Friday night or a concert on the weekend, that capital is not risk capital, right? That capital is actually best used, in our opinion, allocated towards those venues, right? And a couple of reasons why we say that and why we always talk about it first. One is psychologically, if you're thinking about your bills at the end of the month, you're thinking about your groceries at the end of the week, or you're thinking about that concert or your friends that you are going to go out with, you're not thinking about the trade, right? And so objectively, you're bringing in biases already to the trade that you need this money or you can't lose this money. Market doesn't really care, right? And so what we are here to do each week is talk about the facts. So what's happening in the market here and now? What are the facts of the market, right? Are we over the yesterday's close, right? That's fundamentally positive. So all those different kinds of things we're here to talk about. And if you are clouded within your judgment, you're either not going to take enough risk for the opportunity that exists, or you are going to take too much, right? And so you're not really just staying in the zone. You're not trading with those facts in mind. So, agenda for the week, and kind of over the last few weeks, we've kept it a bit short. Believe we're going to keep it short here as well, but we talk about macro, and then we kind of dive into some of the more shorter time frames, right? And so we hop on each week. So we typically talk about the 7-day structure, right? Price structure in the markets. We give an update weekly, and then we go through some strategy, right, and how to approach that. So macro events, for those that don't know, biggest one right now in the headlines is the summit that happened over the weekend, right? And so President Trump and Putin, right, met in Alaska and had some formal conversations about potentially ending the war in Ukraine, right? And so fast forward to today, President Zelensky, European nations all met as well with President Trump, and they are looking to potentially make a deal on kind of the end outcome of this war, right? Does it happen? Does it not? Nobody really knows, and it seems as if those negotiations are continuing to happen for the next 7 to 14 days, right? There's a lot of people involved in terms of European nations, the United States, but also Ukraine in itself, and then obviously Russia. And so there's a lot of sides that need to be heard, and then obviously a lot of history there as well, especially with the war going on. So that is something that's first and foremost. Next piece is Jackson Hole, right? So you have a Fed meeting at the end of the week, right? And historically, over the last few Jackson Holes, Jerome Powell has used it as a as an opportunity to really kind of forecast the fall in the future, right? And so markets are kind of looking, and we'll be monitoring how that goes, especially with those September rate cuts in front of mind, right? And then last, and we'll continue to kind of beat the drum here, is seasonality, right? And so only bring it up in the respect that fundamentally, especially we cover Ethereum and Bitcoin, the macro backdrop is incredibly positive still. However, typically, if left tail events are known, they're hedged, right? And so it actually creates lesser of a decline and less of a vol event, and more of a short dip that's bought, and those puts then become in profit, they become sold, which is long delta, and then it's positive for the market, right? So with that being said, all I'm saying is seasonally, September, October are tough months for equities especially, but also within risk assets, right? And so even if we don't see that left tail, it absolutely always exists here. And so it's one thing to be aware of and watch, especially if you are and have kind of enjoyed selling the vol on the way up, especially on the downside. Don't be surprised if we get a vol event, is basically it. Without further ado, though, we can kind of jump into the structure and talk about the facts, right? So just because we have the macro is positive, we are heading into seasonality, so they are a bit of potentially some headwinds. But let's look at the structure. Let's look at where those price structures would be validated, right? And so for those that don't know, this is our website, DARMAcapital.trade. Pretty much everything about us, right? So all the way from advisory, analytics, academy, to about everything we do, right? And so what we're going to dive into today is our analytics. And so we call those our price map. So if you are unfamiliar and enjoy either the recording or you're watching live, head over to the sign up page and go through a free trader assessment and education. I say that because the analytics, there's a lot there, and we offer education for free. So it's an awesome resource for you to dive into free of charge. All you got to do is fill out a free trader assessment. I think it's enter an email as well. We can click here. Just enter your name, all these kind of things. And no email. But go through that. The trader assessment's a really good gauge. It's a behavioral and psychological test. So it's fun to go through just on your own anyways, especially being a trader. I've gone through it a few times, but it tells you who you are as a trader, as a person, and it gives you insights into how you kind of would approach risk, just day to day generally, right? And so that carries over obviously into your trading. Are you better in pods? Are you better solo? Are you better within discretionary trading? Are you better within a system? All these different kinds of things behaviorally that kind of help, right? It even kind of breaks it down to your environment, right? Are you somebody that needs blank white walls, or are you somebody that needs some art to make that environment a bit more peaceful, a bit more happy, and better for that trading environment? So that's cool. That's free. Absolutely check it out. But where we're going to hop into is our analytics here. So we have the price map, and then you will note we're going to dive over to Bitcoin first, and then we will get into Ethereum. But yeah, so we're going to go over the weekly structure here, and I'm going to, just make sure it fits the page, zoom out, and let's talk about it. So we start out each kind of weekly session here on Bookmap with our state structure strategy. We have an option section. We also have a score. So those are some cool things that are being worked on and also done as well. So always we start with the directional. Classic pivot, over under, positive on price, negative on price, right? So under it's negative on price, and then we'll talk about this R level down here after, but over it's positive on price. So we price over it, start the week, and quickly we break down, right? Under here is a trigger to start to lighten up on that long risk if you have it. No real reason to until we kind of break down here. This is last night. We break down. Immediately we target the CR minus, right? These brown CR minus, CR plus, that's a fairly tight range. That's your inner critical range. And that's a tight range of trade, especially on any duration, right? And so Bitcoin last week hit an all-time high, but quickly has reverted right back into range and just continues to destroy all vol selling or all vol buying and be a very frustrating trade. Next that we talk about, right, so is the R level. R level is dynamic, so it shows up all over the price map, every single duration, right? So if we pop over here to the daily, you will notice that the R level, I'm thinking it's going to be at a different level here. Yeah, the R level is above the market, right? So that tells us on the daily session, it's actually a negative bias, right? And so if the market's going to get going, look for fades in specific areas where those fades can happen, right? So you see immediately we open up, and then that's your short-term cue that the sentiment's bad, and here's your price. Price is bad. We're going lower, right? That's how we kind of treat it. We keep it super simple. So weekly, our level being under is positive. So we get a bit of a context when we're looking at the weekly and the daily. Daily showed us that it's negative on the session, which it proved to be true. Weekly's telling us that look for dips to buy, right? And so what does that tee up? Tees up the R level here is the best area that we see for risk capital to be deployed. 112 and basically 3/4, a bit over 3/4, right? With risk under it, right? So for this market to remain in a bull trend digestion and also remain in trend, this bottom dash line needs to hold. If this bottom dash line does not hold, it is not a market to look to engage with, right? Especially from the buy side. So it's a quick risk overlay to just put yourself as a trader in check. Next is because it's lower, right? Price is negative, but sentiment's positive. So we know we are buyers off of this R level. We're just looking for better entries, right? And so that's exactly what we got off the CR minus. Now we are in potentially ACR rotational. It's imperfect because it didn't hold these this negative dash line down here. But next piece to look at and what we're monitoring is, one, we get a new daily. So that's going to provide us some context today at 0 UTC. Next is if we can get a base over that daily directional, it potentially sets up for a trigger right back over this weekly directional and a rotation to this CR plus. That CR plus is 119 and basically a quarter, just under a quarter, 189.3. And if this market really wants to extend or expand, we really need a base over here, right? Otherwise, we're continued in this digestive trade to the state. Let me talk about the state real quick. The state kind of, it's your expectation per the session. It's dynamic as well. So as price moves, it will change. So currently we're in a bull trend digestion, right? Bull trend digestion is a signature state, has an underlying positive foundation, but the current expectation is for a sideways digestive trade. Typically, the market has made a sharp advance in the prior session and needs a sideways session or two to catch its breath, right? Before it can resume a bull trend. This is a difficult trade state with low volatility, one-way price movement common, as well as choppy false breakout signals, right? So you get this breakdown, immediately right back. It would not be uncommon to get a bid right back to the mid here, to your classic pivot, performing perfectly to the state. So one thing to note is we are still in a bull trend. We're still in an uptrend. While you can see down here that it's a bit sloppy. So you get that expansion to an all-time high, and then you get a break. But largely, the uptrend is still intact, right? Higher highs, lower lows, if you kind of scale out. So for that to remain, this R level needs to hold, for one. For two, for this to change, a base over the directional and an expansion over the CR plus needs to happen, right? Structure, we just talked about it. R levels at the DP, that's positive. So we just talked about look for dips to buy. R level equal to DP defines a lower digestive extreme and provides a positive sentiment bias above this price point. Expectations are for a firm sideways trade within the UP upside pivot down to the DP, right? Negative sell fade and reversal strategies will work best at resistance rather than a breakout, right? So this gives a bit about the structure. Strategy here, buy R fade. So if we get an opportunity to buy it off the R, fade it. Buy DP reversal. So if we really do get a break through the R, but we quickly rebase, it's a shakeout to the downside. Your focus is still on the R level. As long as we're over this figure, it's positive. So I have to re-engage. A buy DP reversal is very positive. It's a powerful signal, right? The reason for that is people think we're breaking down, right? We've already defined this area as the most optimal area for risk per the duration. That's where a lot of people are going to get caught, right? So if they get caught, there's your trap, boom. And immediately it targets right back to the mid. You squeeze them all out. Next here is sell UP fade and sell DP breakout, right? So hedge themes, right? So if this market's not going to perform to expectations, we also get a bit of color on that as well. So a UP, if we price all the way up to 121 this week and we fade it, it's digestive, right? It's still positive, but it's digestive. It's not in a bull trend breakout mode, right? Same thing here, sell DP breakout. It's really a sell R breakout as well. We've talked about that. So if the R level can't hold, we're under here. That is a problem, and that is your trigger to reassess and question the state. So let's hop over here to Bitcoin perpetual market. So on my right side, you also see Bookmap. We each week we kind of hop over here and we look at where that resting liquidity is. Eerily enough, it's actually fairly light. So I mean, you have a band down here at 114, but nothing significant. We don't really see any alignment there. The bid's light, right? Some alignment here off the R level, but not a lot. And then you have, there you go. You have some resting liquidity. I just had to scale out. So 112, right? Just under that R level. That would tee up for potentially a buy DP reversal that we just talked about as a powerful trap in the market. Next here is you have those resting liquidities, 14.5 down to 14. It's not a significant amount of coin, right? I understand that it's the same amount, but they're two lots, right? Whereas this one is double lots. So absolutely it exists there. It's something to watch. We don't see a lot of alignment there. So it would be something to monitor. Next is offers light. So all the way up to 125 is fairly light. Nobody's really looking to sell it here or limit out on the perpetual multi-book. Let's hop over to Ethereum. Ethereum's been kind of the talk of the town over the last quarter. So let's pull that one up and we'll go through that as well. Cool. Nice. We've not talked, to my knowledge, we haven't talked about an up bull trend correction. Maybe, but not a lot. Okay. Let's zoom back here and then we'll talk about the weekly. All right, zooming out. Directional, over under, price. We're basically at it, right? What we need to see is 4,400 be supported on the bid again for it to re-engage and look to get out of this bull trend correction, right? Otherwise, target levels on the downside, DP all the way down to the R level, right? So price is currently negative, right? That changes with a bid over 4,400. Sentiment's positive, so we're looking for areas to buy. Where are those areas to buy? Buy DP reversals are good. Buy DP fades, DT1 reversals, and then R level, right? R level fades. Those are all key levels that we're watching on the buy side. On the sell side, right? We'll dive into strategy in a second, but let's go over the state. So market state. So a bull trend correction, a market in a bull trend correction signature state has produced a negative signal against a positive trend. The market remains firm, however, is vulnerable to a counter trend corrective break. The market is searching for support and is characterized by a stop and go trade with sharp emotional breaks. The corrective action can disappear quickly, so avoid leveraging up on any sell-offs as the positive momentum will try to reestablish itself. A tell to a return to the bid is a capitulation reversal signal off support, right? So a DP reversal, or potentially an R fade, right? A sustained break in the underlying positive structure is more likely to result in a shift into a neutral market state versus a negative transition. Don't lose sight of the underlying positive momentum, which can start to feed on itself near the end of the trade period in the settlement phase, right? So we see settlement phase as the last day of the week, right? So that's going to be Saturday of this week. But last few days are also towards the latter part of that state. Of that duration. So next is the structure. So structure is less than DT1, so we're far off the market, right? So sometimes it can act as a magnet to the market. Need to be aware of it. So a market in a bull trend correction signature state with an R level below the DT1 provides a target for the current counter trend signal. This is forecasted corrective low point. The key tell for the state is how the market reacts at the DP right here. So 4,000 becomes a very important level this week after a challenge at the R level, right? So if we get a break under the R level and then a reversal back up to the DP, that's important. However, also 4,000 is still in play. It's a very important level this week. A DP reversal, however, has the potential to trigger a next advance to the new move highs. So a break under and a reverse through it, right? Strategy on the week, buy our fade. So if we do get an opportunity off this left tail down here at 3,600, that's where we see the best area for risk capital to be deployed. A buy DP reversal, just like we were talking about. And then sell directional breakouts. So we're technically in one. So we get a CR plus move down to the CR minus. We've already traded a CR rotational. Now the market's back at the directional. Is it going to continue lower or is it going to continue higher? Bid over 4,400 is what we need to see in the next 24 hours. Otherwise, this market's at risk down to the DP. Sell UP, fade, right? So if we do get a bid and we can't get over this 4,700, it's a fade. Where does it target? The directional, right back, right? So there's a ton of color here on what that means, but we don't have to read through it all because we kind of just broke it down in the summary. So let's hop over here to Ethereum on the perpetual book and see where that resting liquidity is. Let me zoom in a bit here because there is some resting orders. So 4,000, you have some coin there sitting there. That's a key level. We see direct alignment on multiple different time frames there. 39.50 is basically your previous month's high, so it makes sense. And so that's also a key level. Next is on the offer. Offer's light. So not a lot there in the offer. Continue to monitor that as well. But specifically on the bid, these two areas we do see a lot of alignment. On the weekly, not so much, but this is a previous month's high. That's always a very important level. So that is the weekly outlook in both Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm actually going to zoom over here and make sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we will we'll wrap it up. If anybody has any questions or wants to go over kind of the structure or watching the recording and interested, hop over to the Discord, ask us questions. Everything we talked about here as well is we're offering discounts to Bookmap. So if you're interested in all of that, make sure to reach out to me personally or just in the Discord, and we'll get that figured out. So enjoy the week. Good luck. And I'll catch you guys next week.